Everybody, welcome to the UGASports Live podcast. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and Jim Donnan, the Hall of Famer himself. The reason why everybody's tuned in, I am at Classic City Eats, where it is live, loud, and raucous. And hopefully we're going to have a special guest join us later in the show. So that should be hopefully will be a fun thing for you. This week's episode of UGASports Live is going to center heavily on questions. We have a ton of questions from our readers. Kind of looking forward to spring, looking a little bit back towards this last season, but mostly people excited about Georgia going out and winning another one. Want to shout out to our friends at Academia Brewing Company, Europie, Athens Ford, and of course our friends at Dead Soxy for sponsoring the show. Without them, we wouldn't be here, so we really appreciate it. And I advise you, if you get a chance, swing by Classic City Eats here in Watkinsville. It's right down Highway 15, Greensboro Highway, right off of downtown Athens. It's a great spot to come by, grab a meal. I'm going to have some of their delectables here in a moment when they're back there cooking for me right now, so I appreciate that. And if you get a chance, come by and see Maddie, the bulldog puppy. If she's here, that would be you get a chance to do that, that's definitely worth it. So swing by Classic Cities when you get a chance. Dane, you want to I put on Facebook I'll open it up to questions. We got a ton of them, but we always want to take care of the folks at UGAsports.com first. So why don't you hit us up with some of those questions, and we will just have a Q&A for the entire hour.
Well, I'm going to start, though, because this is my privilege as being a co-host of this show, with my question, which, Coach, I just want your Super Bowl reaction. A lot of former Georgia guys getting the chance of a lifetime and seeing it realized with Thomas Brown and Matthew Stafford and Leonard Floyd. Sony Michel gets another. Just your reaction to the Rams Bengals Super Bowl.
Well, it's certainly filled with a lot of intrigue, and certainly one of those games where either team could have won, and you got to give the Bengals credit for doing a good job stopping the run. And it was just a classic case of driving down the field there by Matthew Stafford, and tremendous resolve by that Cup kid who just continues to amaze me with his ability. And certainly, any way you look at it, when you got that Super Bowl ring, it's nothing like it. And I'm really happy for Stafford and all the Georgia people, and for sure Sony getting his second one already in the first 4.5-5 years. So it's something you can always remember. So just really excited for those guys. Disappointed for my friend Zach Taylor, who I told you my daughter used to babysit for when he was a little baby. So shows you how old I am, but he's done a really good job with that team, and I think they're going to be a force. They got to certainly get some offensive linemen to help them a little bit, but when you're trying to block that 99, I mean, he's just such a force. And then they added Von Miller and just made that team, made Leonard Floyd better, made everybody better having those guys up front.
I was particularly happy for Leonard Floyd. He's from Eastman, Georgia. It's a very small town, not a whole lot there. My grandparents live in Cary, so we're right there next to each other. And Leonard to go from Dodge County High School, then to Hargrave Military Academy, get his grades right, come to Georgia and thrive, and then he's closing in on 8-10 years in the league already, and was a first-round pick and now a Super Bowl champion. It's just a really incredible career for him.
Sure is. And Thomas Brown, I remember when recommended him for a strength job up there at Marshall, and look where his career's gone. Now he's already interviewing for head jobs. And you talk about coaching trees. When you look at the guys that are coaching for that Rams team, the way these guys are moving on to be, I think this is the third head coach now that Sean McVay's put in the league. This O'Connell guy's going to Minnesota, and then, of course, Zach went to the Cincinnati Bengals, and their D coordinator went to the Chargers last year. So he's putting them out. So people are looking for that success plan that they've had. But, incredibly, they can't beat in their own division. They can't beat the 49ers. They finally beat them after losing 5 or 6 straight. But that's a really tough division when you look at that, all the teams in there with Phoenix, and then you just keep on going all the way up to Seattle and San Francisco. Tough division. I guess you call it Arizona Cardinals. It's the Phoenix Suns, the Arizona Cardinals. You don't say the Arizona Suns or the Phoenix Cardinals. So that's the way it goes.
I think the hockey team just switched that up, though, because they were the Phoenix Coyotes, but they're going to play, I think, at like Arizona State's arena or something next.
What are they going to be called now?
They're going to be the Arizona Coyotes.
Does the one guy, the great hockey player, is he
Gretzky?
still on that team? Gretzky used to own that team. So
Roddy's our hockey expert. So let's go to Roddy and ask.
Oh, please. Yeah, I'm trying to get down to Gwinnett here in March to see a game, but yeah, I'm not a hockey guy. I did shoot a hockey game once as a photographer. Never do that again. That's the hardest thing I've ever covered. It's impossible to even see that puck, and you try to get a great action shot. It's through these little holes they got cut in the plexiglass. Yeah, it's an absolute.
Everybody's got their niche. Like so many people here in the South. I mean, you got the regular sports that you just rally around: football, baseball, basketball. But when I worked up at ESPN, it was incredible the intrigue there in the newsroom, getting ready for Sports Center or whatever it might be at night, and how many people would be locked into watching the hockey teams from New York and Boston. They were just, I mean, I couldn't get in it. You know, you guys want to be watching that, and hey, I'm just go over and take a nap. I mean, it was unbelievable how they really got caught up in it. They lifetime fans, which is the way it goes up there. They're hockey people.
I'm a fan of the San Jose Sharks because I spent some time out in San Jose. I got an uncle lives out there. I spent some time growing up out there, so I'm a fan of the Sharks. But again, I can name 3 guys on the whole squad. I keep up with them, but I'm just not a diehard hockey guy. But I'll tell you,
I didn't realize that. So I have one question for you. Do you know the way to San Jose?
I do know the way to San Jose, especially from Campbell, right outside of there. So I know the way to San Jose. I know the great song too. I also know that if you go to the ocean about that, out that way, it's freezing. Everyone thinks of the California sun and the coastline. And you go out to the Pacific. Yeah, around San Diego, that water's warm. You get up around Campbell, California, San Jose, that water's freezing. You better have a wetsuit. So it's ugly. Oh yeah, let's go to the beach. No, it's different. That's why you'll find me on the find me down at Orange Beach whenever I get the chance. I do want to mention, you talked about the Super Bowl. I want to give a big shout out to Matt Stafford for winning it. I thought he should have been MVP, but I get the people that vote on that didn't give it to him because of these interceptions. But hey, he threw 3 touchdowns. First Georgia Bulldog quarterback to win it. I was very excited for him, very happy for him to pull that off. And Leonard Floyd, great guy. One of my worst moments in journalism was a video interview I did with him after a game. I asked the stupidest questions, and he was very kind to put up with it, but he was exhausted. It was horrible. And of course, Sony Michel, who came so close to winning a title, now has 2 rings. Very excited for Sony Michel. So that was very cathartic to see those guys win it. Very happy for all 3 of them, and of course Nick Jones and Brown. And I feel bad for Trey Hill, but he'll get his. I think, Coach, you nailed it. We talked about how he's going to that team's built for success going forward. So shout out to Trey Hill as well.
Oh, well, with the Super Bowl being over, that means. Is this our special guest? There we go. Oh, if you're audio only, Roddy is currently getting licked by the cutest little bulldog puppy.
I know, sweetheart. I know.
This is your Isaiah Crowell moment, Roddy.
Oh, yeah.
So Roddy's going to make an announcement that he's moving to 24/7 sports. Don't do it, Roddy.
Yeah. I'm going to start covering the Gators now, just let you know.
And the puppy's name is Natty, right?
Natty, Natty. So,
all right,
yeah.
Cool.
All right, with the Super Bowl being behind us, that means that we turn the page and look forward to the next football season. And this question from Dog KC: which position group for Georgia is strongest heading into 2022?
I really don't see any really overwhelming strengths, just like I don't see any overwhelming weaknesses. Depth issues going to always be a problem if you end up with some guys enter the portal or something like that. But the main thing is we certainly have restocked and reloaded in every position. So right off the bat, people say offensive line just because of the depth, but you got to get some guys that make that move and prove they're capable of starters. But I feel like our team is going to be favored in every game they play next year right now, unless we just have we got through this year with having a lot of injuries and we're able to sustain ourselves. And I read yesterday where Radi had said that Bowers had labrum surgery and a couple of weeks ago, so he's probably ready to go next week. Knowing that kid, I mean, he's probably ready to rock. But that'll give Darnell Washington more reps in the spring. We got Delp here too, so I don't know that anything just jumps out at me as being a strength like our running back room was this year or like our linebacker group was this year. I mean, we're not going to have a dominant position, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Roddy?
I will go surface level analysis as Coach points out. And to me, I would go to the offensive line or the tight ends based on just the depth. But you make a good point. When you lost left side of that line, you lose Justin Schaefer and Jamari Sawyer, and when you needed a yard, it's 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. That's where you went. So Broderick Jones is good, but he's had some mistakes. You don't have a left guard right now. But the reason I go with that surface level analysis is when I did the scholarship distribution chart, I think that Georgia has 21 offensive linemen. And you got a bunch of 4 and 5 stars in there. And again, Coach, I'm looking at it from a number standpoint that should be the most dominant group. But Coach looks at production, and there are a lot of question marks on the production side there. But I'm just thinking, God, at some point, with Tate Ratledge coming back and Devin Willock being ready and Warren Erickson coming back for another year and McClendon, and you had Van Pran that was his freshman year at center. How much better will he be year 2 as a starter?
Yeah, the biggest question on the team to me is how are you going to get Mims in the lineup? I mean, he's going to have to, with Ratledge coming back, I mean, Mims is going to be a big key with his athleticism. So we'll have to see that it works out. But what else we got?
Well, I'm going to come in pretty hard with it. I felt like y'all limped in with those takes. I'm going to say quarterback. Because when you look at the strengths last year, it was experience on the defensive line. It was experience at running back. It's hard when you look around the SEC to find a quarterback as experienced as Stetson Bennett. And he outplayed the Heisman Trophy winner in the national championship game when it really counted late in the game, especially 4th quarter. So I look at it and say, I would feel really good about Stetson Bennett for the whole season for Georgia. And let's say injuries happen. That's a thing. I think Brock Vandagriff is a really special talent. Now, is he ready for the big time? I don't know. I haven't seen him practice or anything like that. But I think that kid has everything that you want in a quarterback for 2022 and beyond.
Hey, you make a good point as far as just one player, but you're looking at 3 guys that maybe have played 15 plays behind him. So the question was, what position strength? So I thought they were talking in terms of just pure numbers, but certainly that the strength of our team, the one most overpowering strength on our team, to me, is the combo of Bennett to Bowers. Just knowing that you got that going into the season, not to mention the fact that Stetson's got a wealth of quarterback knowledge, just with all these reps he's had in practice and all these adversity he's faced. It'd be nice to go into a game with everybody's pulling for you to do well instead of half of you pulling that you're not going to do well and you're going to be pulled out of the game. And that's not being negative on Dog Nation or our group. I mean, but you got to realistically think that he didn't have as much backing as most quarterbacks have in most schools. Would you both you guys say?
I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And now he gets his 1 year as – like I said, I followed him through the national championship celebration and people screaming like he was, John Lennon and Paul McCartney combined, and Elvis all combined as one guy, and I'm like, doesn't do anything on the field, doesn't help the performance, doesn't give him a completed pass, but I'm just saying that everyone kind of pulling together, rooting for him instead of some people kind of looking over his shoulder the entire time. Hopefully that does translate, and the guy deserves it. But Coach, you mentioned Brock Bowers, and I'm thinking when we've watched Cup in that Super Bowl, I kept thinking of Lad McConkey. Just watching that guy, I'm like, these guys are similar to me. It's I'm really excited what he can do after with a year. And we have a question about the quarterbacks there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Lad McConkey, speed and quickness, elite level on our team. He's one of the fastest guys out there. And then you bring in this fast kid we got, plus the one that got hurt last year. That's a track guy.
Arian Smith.
So we'll have a lot of deep threats. But, people bring up questions to me like, who's going to beat out Stetson? And, I mean, maybe that's a good question for somebody. But to me, if somebody beats out Stetson next year, it'll be – I'd say that's 99-1 that he's going to be beaten out. I just don't see it with all the experience we got at receiver, those guys that are going to be able to play now, Kieris and Blaylock, to go with the guys that Mitchell and those guys, and the knowledge of the system that Bennett has. If you're looking to get him beat out, that would really surprise me to me. But that goes in with the same rhetoric of the same people that want him to get beaten out last year, maybe. What else can he do? What else does he need to do to prove that he's an SEC quarterback to me?
He's still not even in the Heisman odds, which is crazy to me from Vegas, that they're not thinking that Georgia's offense, that whoever is the quarterback for that should be a top 10 Heisman favorite almost every year at this point. Yeah,
he's got a lot more stats than JT had going into him being a Heisman quarterback candidate last year. He and Spencer Rattler were right up there among the best in the country last year, right? And by the way, Roddy, with all your sources and all, what are you hearing about JT? Where's he going?
Last I heard was Utah. Looking at Utah and Cincinnati. It's I know somebody said he's going to Ole Miss. I don't see that happening, but
especially now they just brought that Dart kid in from
exactly. One start's going there.
Somebody asked me over. Can't remember which store I go to so many stores to buy takeout, but they were saying, "Do you think JT's going to Auburn?" Good Lord, if he went to Auburn, I really would have to check his.
So were you wearing a helmet when you got hit, son?
Yeah, I can't see Ryan Harson's parents going to Auburn right now. Even visit. Come on.
That was cold, cold-blooded, Coach. That's a good one.
Brian Harsin just stood up and said, "Y'all gonna pay me. So either you're gonna pay me to coach or you're gonna pay me not to coach, but you're gonna pay me."
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do want to address what Coach said about what could Stetson do. You could go back in time and not be a walk-on quarterback. That's the only thing, because some people have that wrapped up. And I feel bad because we're a recruiting organization, and maybe if one of us or any of the other recruiting services out there had given 3 or 4 stars, then maybe this whole controversy wouldn't be here. But there's nothing you can do. But I'll tell you this, Stetson's a smart guy. JT Daniels is a smart guy. JT Daniels knows to avoid the cluster that is Auburn. And that actually brings up a question, Coach, because while we're talking about them, I know we do want to ask some questions from the board, but I did want to bring up this one that I got on Facebook. Where is it? Charlotte says, what do you think will happen at Auburn?
What will happen?
Yeah.
That's
all she asked. She said, what do you think is going to happen at Auburn? I'm assuming she's talking about the whole Harsin situation.
Here's the deal right now. They're just looking at – you got to look at who you got to beat. So, realistically, if you took all the teams in the SEC right now, East, West, even the 2 that are coming in, Oklahoma and Texas, which probably won't be this year, maybe next year. But to me, if you rank them and look at their strengths and weaknesses, I would say they're right there with Vanderbilt to be the least talented team in the league as far as their personnel, as far as their coaches now. They lost another coach yesterday going to the NFL. It's going to be working with the Broncos. So they've lost 5 or 6 coaches. Over 20 people have hit the portal. And just you got to think. And then you look at their division, who they got to beat. not one team in that league, although they did beat Ole Miss last year and Arkansas. But I'm just saying, they're on a 5-game losing streak. The recruiting is low. They had a really good early signing date, but missed on everybody on the national signing date. And I mean, I want to be optimistic for everybody, and I think the guy's probably got a lot of good qualities. But to me, it looks like right now he's in over his head as far as where he's coaching compared to where he did coach. It's just night and day between Mountain West and the SEC. All of us know that, and you got to get the players, number one, and they're not getting players, and you're not going to outcoach these other schools. I mean, there's even if you bring in Newt Rockne, you're not going to. So it's just I would say if you had to characterize it on something that really would make me make one of these things that I would put on Twitter, I don't know what you call it, but I would see one of these dumpster fires going down the Mississippi River when it's over flooded. You know, it's one of those.
That's called a meme, Coach.
Yeah, that's what it would be. One of those dumpsters on fire floating down the Mississippi during the flood. That's about the way I see Auburn right now.
I mean, the recruiting is as bad as it is, but like when you see Derek Mason say, you know what, I'll take a couple $100,000 pay cut to go to a worse conference and a team with a worse chance to win a national championship, though maybe Oklahoma State after this past season, you know, better shot to win a title than Auburn. But I'm just saying in terms of the league, I mean, that's an indictment to me that these coaches don't want to be there on this staff right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Derek. About Derek Mason, but I think it's showtime for Derek Mason too. I mean, he's been in this league for a long time, and he couldn't win at Vanderbilt, and he couldn't win at Auburn. So probably figured he'd try to go out there and see if he can beat Oklahoma and people like that. But he's a good man and got a lot of good qualities. I just don't know how good a defensive coach he is myself. I really worried about the guy that played in man coverage at the end of the game against Alabama, even though they stopped him a long time playing other stuff. But at the end of the game mechanics that they ran against Alabama were like he was on Nick's payroll.
You notice, Roddy, that Coach didn't wish the best to Derek Mason at Oklahoma State. And I don't think it's about Derek Mason. I think it's about Oklahoma State.
Hey, I got some real feelings for Oklahoma State, and they're not good.
Can't blame you there. I love the rivalries in this sport. Let's get to another question from the vent at UGASports.com. This is from R. Herschel Walker. Says, Coach, what Pro Football Hall of Famers have you coached either as an assistant or head coach? They mentioned Troy Aikman, Champ Bailey, Richard Seymour, and who else? This on the heels. Coach and I on Friday on the same channel, you can scroll back, did a special about Richard Seymour entering the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I don't really want to go on there and go over those guys. We don't have about 35 more minutes. So I was able to coach some good guys, but I really was fortunate I was in good programs like North Carolina and Oklahoma, Missouri, those guys. But getting in the Hall of Fame is really a tough thing to do. I mean, Hines Ward's right there on the cuffs of it. I hope he makes it. There's so many good receivers. And Richard had to really fight. I mean, he didn't have the overwhelming stats because he played on a team concept defense where he was setting up the linebackers and he was doing a good job of taking away blocks, you know, stuff like that. But, yeah, I was, you know, Keith Jackson, probably the best offensive player I ever coached. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. I don't think he's in the NFL, but Champ Bailey, best all-around player I ever coached. Lawrence Taylor, probably the meanest I ever coached. Just had a mean on in the locker room. You didn't want to even be around them pregame. I used to wait till the team – when I was in college, I used to wait till the team ran on the field. My dad said, why are you the last guy to always run on the field? And I said, it's because some of these defensive players in in there start pounding on you and hitting your pads and butting you and everything. I used to go stand on the commode so they wouldn't see my cleats and hang in there so they wouldn't hit me pregame. I was scared to death of my own team. So I would just run out late there at the last time. So it's because I was hanging out in the bathroom, really. But I don't know why I said that. That was bad self-disclosure there. But I was lucky to coach a lot of good players, and I promise you, if there's one thing I could do that I always enjoyed recruiting, and I always enjoyed the challenge of it. And I tell you what, with this NIL stuff going right now, I would be stronger than dirt recruiting. I can tell you that, because I'd come in there with some good packages. I came in with good packages when it was illegal, but I guarantee you when it's legal, I could set some people's ass up for life.
Oh, there's some stories I need to get either on air or off air. I really don't care. We'll have to have a lunch or something to get some of those. This is from Ned Racine Dog. Said, Coach, after having coached national championship level teams and having a firsthand view of this Georgia team, what can you tell us about the common denominators for such success?
It got leadership at the top. Kirby Smart. I mean, when you have a guy that's as driven as Kirby, that's as organized, that has a real good vision, and really likes his job. I mean, he loves being here. I mean, that means a lot. Just the fact that all the background, I don't need to go into that, but it takes a lot of personal pride in what we're doing. Every person has pride in your job, but it's even more when it's some place that you've invested so much of your life into, and your wife had too. So I think it starts at the top, just the fact that he's not going to let any stone be unturned. And you start over on the first day of after National Signing Day. You got to start with your strength program. You're working on your all-season deal where you work on specific drills and stuff related to your position, and the constant changing of your staff, whether it be support people or on the field people, but how are they going to blend together? We had a really good feel for each other last year as a staff that had some adversity. I mean, the coach left during the season, had to replace him, and you had another coach get a head job while you're playing for the national championship. It's just a really good organization here, and you just got to be careful about one thing. And I'm going to tell a quick story here because we got time for stories. Oklahoma won the national championship in 71 or 72. I mean, then didn't lose a game the next year and had these ties and everything. Well, they had these guys that were younger guys that weren't playing much. They weren't practicing like these varsity guys were. You know what I mean? So they weren't used to anything except the way Oklahoma practiced, which was not real hard because they had so many good players. The Selman brothers, all those guys, they're winning. They're dominating. So when they started over, they had to change their system a little bit and start working harder and practicing a little harder and everything. And these kids weren't used to it. They didn't know that dynamic. So they told J.C. Watts, who was a quarterback, said, why don't you go up there and tell Switzer what the heck's going on? Why are we working so hard? Hey, what's going on? We got a little unrest in the locker room. So that was the first morning of practice and then of that day. And then when they got ready for practice in the afternoon, JC said, how'd he say? And he said, well, I was walking up there and I was walking through the halls and I saw those pictures of Steve Owens and Billy Vessels and all the different people had played at Oklahoma. And I'm thinking, would they go up there and tell Switzer that they're working too hard? Would they tell him that they'd challenge him and say, look, why are we doing this? Every team's got its own makeup. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody here. And this is going to be a team that's going to have to adjust. And probably some of these kids are going to be asked to do things that they weren't in the roles they were in last year. And they're going to have to adjust to that. But they know, based on the way we practice and what we do, a pretty good idea about it. I mean, that's not going to be a radical, but your responsibility roles have to change. And how does that happen? How do we supplement our team with the transfer portal? Like, we got the kid from Clemson. We got guys that come in and do the job. So that's going to be important. Every team's got a makeup, but I like the fact that we're going to be right there in the thick of things just because of who we got coming back, who the rest of the league. You got who you got rebuild at Florida. Tennessee's in their second year of rebuild. Kentucky's really the only team in our league on our side of the ball that really has a stable coaching staff that hasn't changed in the last few times. You got a new guy at Vanderbilt, and you got Missouri going their third year, South Carolina, all that. So Napier's first year. So I feel good about where we are. And that's a long answer, but basically every team assumes a new identity, a new personality. And Kirby did a masterful job of working on our off-the-field psyche last year, the way they'd had all these people talk to them about collective, being a group, knowing what everybody does, things like that. You could tell our kids liked playing with each other. There was a lot of companionship and a lot of camaraderie there.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, Coach, because we had a second question from Charleston Dog saying, what is the hardest part about winning another title? And I think you nailed it right there with developing their own identity.
Right.
I do want to mention our friends over at Athens Ford. Great site, website if you want to go look at what they have available. Great site if you want to go in and set up a service time. You're like, hey, I need oil change. I need new tires. I need whatever service you want or custom work you want to do. It's neat that you can actually go in there, pull up their calendar, and pick your time. And you don't have to call up and go, hey, what's good for you and what's good for you. You just set up there yourself. They'll send you a confirmation. Hey, we got it. We're ready. We're looking forward to it. They'll send you a reminder in case you forget. But it's a very easy website to use, and it has a ton of information. And if you just show up, they have all sorts of deals for students, $500 off, military discount, $500 off, lifetime powertrain warranty for anybody, that goes out there and buys a new vehicle. So a great site. And also, if you're on Facebook, if you're watching our show on Facebook, go over to their Facebook page, Athens Ford Facebook page. You'll see a lot of the neat stuff that they're doing out there. Right now, you can actually go customize your new vehicle, because the deliveries on these Fords, everybody in the industry is having a hard time getting vehicles. Athens Ford has more than anybody else, but what they're doing right now is to say, look, some of the stuff we're having to order in, come by and customize it. If you're going to order it, you might as well get it exactly the way you want it to. So especially if you want one of those nice Ford Broncos, they're like, look, come set up a time and customize your vehicle and have it delivered here. We'll take care of it for you. So a big shout out to friends at Athens Ford. They're probably still I haven't touched the ground yet because I know Brian and folks out there are huge Georgia fans. They do a lot in this community, and they probably are still high as kites from that national championship win. And speaking of, we'll talk about folks who are big into who are big Georgia fans and who are ecstatic with Georgia's success and who are now. I know this guy. I've known him for years, and when I think about the folks out at UGASports, when Drew French and Natalie French start talking Georgia football, Drew knows his stuff. And I can tell you there's a guy who will have 50 questions about spring practice, and who follows recruiting, who follows the team, who follows it day in and day out, who travels to go see games. Now, of course, they have locations all over the country. If there's one in Auburn, you're not going to go in there and see Georgia stuff all over the walls, but as the owner of UGASports, as the guy who started the whole thing, Drew and Natalie are huge Georgia fans, Georgia alums. They love the Dogs, but it's not a prerequisite if you want to be a franchisee. So if you want your own UGASports and you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, or Jacksonville, Florida, or wherever you want, it doesn't have to be Georgia themed. I guarantee you the ones in Athens are Georgia themed, and that's a huge Georgia fan there in Drew French. And if you want to make a lot of money and have a lot of fun, hit Drew up about being a franchisee. And if not, if you just want a great pizza, you want a great sandwich, want a great salad, you want a great gelato, I can go by there tomorrow and get a free gelato, free brownie too, a birthday. So I can go out there and get some nice eats. It shows up on my app already. Hey, it's already told me happy birthday. Come get your free food. So be sure to sign up with the UGASports app and get some free food, either through having a birthday, through just existing, or by using it to order all your food. So hit up UGASports when you get the chance.
Are you going to be 50?
Yes, 50.
Holy balls!
Great hair.
Hey,
if I had any.
Going into the third quarter, man. That's awesome.
I feel like I'm 27 though. I don't understand how I got to be this old.
I tell you, your condition is a lot better than it was last year when we were doing these shows.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Stronger.
really good. I mean, I take a little credit for telling you to get off your ass and get going.
You did. You absolutely did. I
Proud of you. That's good. I mean, a lot of people, one thing that just kills me, say, I'm going to try to lose weight. How do you try? I mean, you either work at it or you don't. You know, I mean, you got to have a plan, and you know, it's just you can't try anything. You got to go on and commit to it. So I'm not going to get on that right now. Let's go.
Well, we did have a guy on our site lose 85 pounds. I wish I could remember
That's
his
awesome.
name. But
That's awesome. That's great. Congratulations.
He basically said, "Hey, I followed your plan. I dropped 85 pounds." I'm like, holy hell, that's fantastic. So other people are getting healthier too, and we love it.
Good.
Hit us up with another question, Dane, or I can ask some of mine.
Dane's on silence.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go to UGA alum 95, who says, with Zach Etheridge apparently out as the favorite to be the next defensive backs coach, who is the favorite? Is it the Clemson guy or Florida State or somebody else?
You know, I really don't know about this Zach Etheridge. I mean, once you read stuff on Twitter and somebody is leaking that I guarantee you nobody leaks anything around here about who we're talking to. That was a Montgomery paper or something said he was. But deep down, don't you think if he had a chance to be the coach here compared to where he is right now, what would he do? I mean, he turned it down. Come on.
Yeah.
So I don't know all the facts there, but I would say there's a pretty good chance he wasn't offered that job. I mean, maybe he was. And I don't know about the Clemson guy. I mean, he probably feels like he was shunned a little bit, not getting the defensive coordinator situation. But he's making a lot of money over there. I think close to $800,000. And so where both Schumann and Muschamp, that's going to be their salary. I can't see him bringing in a guy as a special teams coordinator and defensive back coach making more than them. So I'm really bad on the coaches. This is one thing about this show that I bring nothing to the table on, because I don't want to have any insight into that and be accused of saying something on this show that I might hear over there. So I don't ever talk to them about who they're bringing in for coaches unless I'm asked my opinion. And then if I tell them that, then I'm certainly not divulging this, except after the fact when I told Roddy that it was total BS about that guy from Kentucky being in on the job. I mean, he was a friend of Coley's from Florida State, and he's trying to get a raise up there, and he got a raise at Kentucky. So, but we never considered him for that job. So
They got fired or left or something, yeah. But
he's probably going to get hired again because their coordinator is going to go back to the Rams. I mean, that was like a rent coach for a year for them. He got to be a college OC, and now he's going to go back out there and take that guy's place. So I would say that more than likely. Now I can't say that for a fact, but who are you hearing, Roddy? I mean, I'm asking the wrong guy here, but you got to look at it like this: you got Kirby and you got Muschamp in the secondary, and whoever's got to come in here has got to be somebody that can get on Jeopardy and answer all the questions, including Final Jeopardy. When you come in here and get interviewed and they put you on the board and make you do all this stuff and you talk about all these you got to be pretty damn slick to get a job here in the secondary, any place. And then you got to be an ace recruiter and all that stuff. So I don't know who that is right now.
Yeah, I don't know who it is. I mean, I know they went after Travaris Robertson. He wound up going to Alabama because Alabama had an opening. Georgia didn't at the time, and want to get, I guess, go.
We did, though. We had an opening for Lanning.
Yeah, but I mean, right, he could have done that too. True.
Yeah.
And then they talked to Reed at Clemson. But I learned that Eddie Gran thing was a good lesson for me, where you have people in his market saying he's been offered the offensive coordinator spot at Georgia. Come to find out, he was basically offered as a tight ends coach. He goes back and says, I turned down Kirby Smart, or who is his agent. And then, you find out that what the sides don't agree on what actually happened. But then we see this guy's in a job with Etheridge. Well, sometimes a a newspaper or a reporter, this has happened to me, where an agent leaks it to you that they're in contact with them, and they're really not in contact with this guy, but he uses it as leverage to get a raise. You let people know that other schools are coming after you, and therefore you get the coach at your school locks you down or gives you a raise or something like that. It's tough to find out what's real information, but I will say this about Kirby Smart when it comes to some of his hires. Look at his coaching tree, very strong. And when he goes, with the inside linebackers coach, we find out that he's talking to a guy out at Kyle Pope, I think at TCU, something like that, or Memphis. And then he winds up getting Chidiro. The stuff that we heard about Chidiro is through the roof. The Kyle Pope guy looked fantastic. I mean, he had great options no matter which way he went. So I'm very curious too. UJ Alum 95. I want to know who it is, but every guy I've come up with hasn't worked out yet.
But realistically, for everybody out there, knowing Coach Smart's resources, knowing Coach, knowing Josh Brooks, and Dr. Moorhead, who, if you look at the record, anything that really Kirby, within reason, has wanted here, he's been able to do. So you got to think that anybody that leaves here goes to another school, and I'm not going to point anybody in particular, but goes to another school for a lateral move, it's more than likely that they weren't really going to be. I don't know. I'm not going to say that they were let go. I'm just going to say we're not going to lose a person on a lateral move here, and Kirby wants to keep them. I can tell you that. If he doesn't care they go, then that's pretty obvious, right? So that's the obvious deal here. So we got you got to be really careful about making all these moves about talking about, well, why didn't we keep him? Why didn't we keep him? I'm telling you why we didn't right now.
This question from Grand Moff Tarkin, and on the vent, you can have these titles that people give themselves. Refers to himself as a buffet line stalker. You've heard of a goal line stalker. Grand Moff Tarkin is a buffet line stalker. It says, Coach, who is the fastest player?
What does he do? Pick up the fattest women going through there? He stalks them or what? I mean,
I think it means he's stalking out the food for the buffet when they put the hot stuff out there.
He's stalking the food. Good.
Yeah. So who's the fastest player in terms of pure speed that you've ever coached, and who's the fastest player in terms of pure speed that you coached against?
Boy, I don't know.
Those are good questions.
We putting Coach to work today.
The fastest guy I ever saw in person was Bob Hayes watching Dallas Cowboys practice out in Thousand Oaks, California. I promise you, he looked like somebody had shot him out of a cannon. I mean, just fast. A lot of guys can transfer track to football, but not keep the same speed. Bob Hayes was the fastest guy that I ever saw in person. As far as fast guys playing against, I mean, I had so many of them run by our secondary guys that I can't even think about. So I always hate to think about people work in. As far as just pure speed on my team, I had a guy played for me at Missouri. His name was Clifford Mundy. He's from Florida and just super fast guy. He just couldn't catch the ball very good. But the number one thing I remember about Clifford Mundy, we're playing in the Holiday Bowl, and my son Todd was like 11 or 12, and he was on the sideline, and he asked Todd to go get him a hot dog on the bench. Clifford. I mean, you just don't. So it was Clifford Hot Dog Monday, but he was probably the fastest pure guy that I ever had that could just flat out fly. But you could run down there and hand him the ball and he'd drop it on a pass. Though I mean, he couldn't catch very good.
This question from N. Kirby We Trust. What is the most important thing that Georgia must do in the offseason to repeat last year's success?
Academics. Keep everybody here. Don't lose any guys academically. That's number one. I mean, you're fighting that role. And the the reason I wanted to bring that up today on the show, because I know we don't have a lot of football. These are good questions, but I just want to reiterate to everybody how hard this school is. And you get a great degree from it, but I get all these people, Coach, can you help my kid get in school? I can't help them. I mean, I wish I could. I wish I had some pull.
I can't get mine in.
It's a hard place to get in. And you see all these different people that tried and what they got to do to get in. And I just went through it with my granddaughter, who was deferred for a semester. And it's just very tough to get in here. So if you just couple that with the fact that who the type of students that we're recruiting academically, our players are having to compete with them in a classroom, and the fact that these classes are geared towards those kind of students. And a lot of these kids don't have the background that these other students have here. So kudos to our academic support people, to Jonas Jennings, Austin, who helps with it, Austin Chamber. All those guys just really do a good job of motivating our kids to go to class and taking notes the right way and doing everything. So I would say academics, number one. The next thing is injuries. Can you get into fall camp with injuries to a minimum in spring because you have contact? And then the third thing would be just transfers. I mean, not so much, I don't think anybody that's going to be a starter, but backups just leave you hanging like we lost all those guys last year in the secondary to depth. So academics, injuries, and transfers to me would be the deal, because we're going to have the team.
The other thing I would add in there is the connection piece that Kirby Smart talks so much about, the skull sessions that worked for Georgia last year. They credited it a lot coming out of the pandemic. I mean, the team changes over so fast. I think that's going to be a critical piece of it every year now.
Right. Good point. And it's going to be easier, though, because of the lack of you don't have to worry about quite as many restrictions on the COVID, so that you can have more meetings, you can have more speakers come in, and you can have people interact a lot easier in the locker room and around the building. Plus, which Radi told us about 3 years ago, that Georgia was building a new building. The last phase of that's going to come into fruition here next week or so, where they'll have a full-time cafeteria, a beautiful meeting room for the whole team, a theater room, these sleep rooms, new dressing rooms for the support staff and coaches. All that part of the building will come in to add to the other. So it's like having a 5-star hotel without the bar and the restaurant. Now all of a sudden you put that in there. We're not going to have a bar, but we're going to have a smoothie bar maybe. But it's going to be, I mean, you just create a morale situation where the kids want to be over there. And I've said this before on these shows. When you go visit a school and you don't ever see the players around the building, you probably got something wrong. They don't enjoy being around the coaches. They don't enjoy being. But our place, our kids are there all the time. They like it. They got a lot of things to do, and they got good morale. So it's going to be even better here. Collier Perno with this new cafeteria thing. It's really more a restaurant. I mean, it's going to be. They're calling it Bones. It's certainly not like the one over there in Atlanta, but there's going to be some good groceries over there, that's for sure.
Coach, I wanted to touch on the academic piece of it too a little bit, just because of the insight that I've gotten. Last month, I started working with the Carmichael Sports Media Institute on campus, training students to become members of sports media. There are 2 football players in the program, and there's a stereotype around football players and academics that exists forever. And I'm sure in some cases it's been true. That's how stereotypes become what they are. But to think that a lot of people say, well, the football players don't do everything all the other students do. It can't be further from the truth from what I've witnessed in this particular program. And then I think that goes for across the college. They're doing everything that all the other students are doing in addition to their other responsibilities. It's hard. You're right. It is very hard.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because in Radi's son, Ali, I congratulate him on doing so well in the state tournament in wrestling. That's awesome. But
Thank you.
Part of the deal about going to college, and I think everybody that listens to the show that went to college, or even if he didn't, as much of it is book learning and working hard and learning how to study and use your time. It's learning how to meet and deal with different people, because that's what life's all about. You got all these different people that you have to understand where they're from and what they're doing. But I just value so many people that I went to school with or got associated with as a coach that were on the campus as people like you, Dayne, that are working in the university. So I just think that's one thing that a young man or woman going to a school got to understand. Hey, I'm gonna major in this and all that, but you got to major in learning how to deal with the day-to-day issues of having the discipline to go to class and meeting different people and having somebody say something to you that maybe you didn't like, but work with it and all that. So that really helps people here in the state that go to school here, because they're being around people that usually have kind of the same values you do growing up. So that helps too. But our it's kind of contradiction to what I said a minute ago about our players around the building a lot, but that's because, once they're on campus, it's hard to go back to their apartment or where they live. But I really do feel like we have great involvement on the campus with our players.
I do. Let me bring myself back up here. When they get a chance, I want them to swing by their Facebook page and check out all the great live musical acts they have, the trivia nights, their beer and biscuit brunch. I can never say it really quickly. And of course, when you get a chance, swing by and grab their Hopperdesiac. I know a lot of people, when they talk to me about beer, they're like, what is the best beer to get out at Academia Brewing Company? What are they known for? And I always tell people about the IQ IPA, but I want folks to get used to that name, Hopperdesiac. When we started the show years ago, we first started having this at this place was Champions before it's Classic City Eats. We were down in the on Baxter Street. They started bringing out the Academia beer out there, and I remember having that Hopperdesiac. And I'm not a hophead guy, but I thought that was a fantastic beer. So I started drinking Hopperdesiac, and everybody that I've had that likes it, people that like those IPAs, people like this, and it's a double IPA, okay? It's a double dried hop, double IPA, fantastic taste. I'm not a huge IPA guy, but I tell you, I will drink the hell out of that beer. So when you get a chance, swing by Academia. You don't have to drink it there. You can get it to go. You'll find cans of it all over town, all throughout the states. It's being sold everywhere. So go ask for Academia Hopperdesiac beer. Hop, like aphrodisiac, hops, Hopperdesiac. Try it out. You will love it. If you don't like it, then there's just something wrong with you. You're just not a good beer drinker. That's all I can tell you. So get a chance, try the Hopperdesiac from Academia Brewing Company. And of course, I want to mention our friends over at Dead Soxy. These are Jason Simmons and the folks over there. The guys that started that company are two Ole Miss grads, and they make great socks, some of the best, most comfortable socks you'll ever put on in your life. They stay up, they don't fall down. They have the True Stay technology. They're incredibly soft. They feel great, and they are good-looking socks. So, and people, I'll be wearing mine, and people are like, hey, what are those? Where'd you get those? And I tell them about them, and we brought them on as an advertiser because they sent us some and said, what do you think? We're like, these are great. So, we've had great success selling these to Ole Miss fans, to LSU fans, to Alabama fans, fans all over the nation. And they wanted to do something with Georgia. So they came up with some Georgia-styled socks, red and black, silver. Check out their friends at Dead Soxy. Try them out. You will absolutely love them. And if you don't like those, then again, you're a bad beer drinker and you don't have good taste in footwear. So that's all I can tell you. So try either one of those and give our friends at Dead Soxy a shout out. And use the promo code UGASports. That's the name of our show, the name of our site. UGASports will get you 30% off your socks. So can't beat it.
This is more of a comment than a question from Coastal VA Dog. I'm going to route this to you. I'm going to route this to you, Roddy. He says, you'd think with Kirby's inability to manage quarterback position, which he's saying in jest, a little cheeky, that the Manning family would not be serious about sending Arch to Georgia. In all seriousness, the fact that UGA continues to be one of his potential destinations says a lot about Kirby Smart and Todd Monken. The Mannings know Arch is going to have to earn it and probably don't want it any other way. What are your thoughts?
I see this a lot. People say, well, he won't come to Georgia because he's worried they're going to play the lesser quarterback, instead of him. Hey, Arch, doesn't believe that at all. And we had Blaine had a great conversation with his head coach and talked about what they're hearing from schools. These are coaches. I mean, the people in his family, they've gone their own route. They've blazed a trail. They understand the game. They understand the industry. They understand development. They know what a good quarterback is. And when they see the guy who supposedly was the worst quarterback choice of all time win a title in Georgia's first title in 41 years, like they knew what Stetson screwed up. They knew what he did well. They know that Todd Monken wants to win. They know Kirby wants to win. And if you're trying to send your kid somewhere or Arch is trying to make a decision, he's going to look at Georgia and go, okay, people didn't agree with this, but Kirby stuck with his guns. So, and it worked out. Guy knows what he's doing. Guy knows how to develop talent. They've had quarterback controversies there. Guess what? When I go there won't be a damn quarterback controversy because I'm going to go there. I'm going to win the starting job. And again, what's the difference between there and Alabama and wherever? I mean, Alabama moved Hurts and Vibes back and forth. They had quarterback controversies. Everywhere you look, there's been quarterback. Ole Miss had them with Plumlee and Corral. Their quarterback controversies everywhere you go. They understand it. They know it. They know that the best guy is going to win out. They have ultimate faith in Arch. Arch has faith in himself. So when he looks at Georgia, he's like, let me go somewhere where I'm going to get good blocking. There's going to be an established run game. I don't have to do it all myself. I'm going to have good wide receivers, great tight ends, and a good offensive coordinator who's going to develop me for the league. Why not go to Georgia? Yeah, they're a national title winner. They're a contender. They're going to be contenders going on. They have stability, like Coach pointed out. You're not going in with a new coach. People say, oh, well, this team's going to fire their coach, and then you're going to have a new coach who's going to be very appealing to Arch. Maybe, but Arch probably doesn't want to go in a situation where you've got to rebuild everything from the ground up. Step into a winner. That's why Alabama is so high on the list. Consistency. Consistent winner, consistent talent, consistently putting guys in the NFL. You just had a former Georgia player win the Super Bowl. I think Georgia is a very appealing option for the Mannings.
Yeah, only thing I would say about all this right here is, and you made a really good point there, and Blaine's done a good job of writing what the coach says, but it really doesn't matter. Nobody knows at this point. It's the same opinion.
Very true.
Everybody's got an opinion on what they're going to do, and just because you can make your opinion a lot better than maybe somebody else's based on some things, but I would say right now this kid is enjoying being in high school and enjoying being in that Manning family, and he probably has no idea what he wants to do until after he finishes his junior year. He'll go around some in the summer one more time and get a feel like he did last year. I just know I saw him over here last year when he worked out and came to camp, and he had a gleam in his eye. He was interacting with the players. I can tell when a guy likes something or doesn't. He had a good visit here. That was when he was a sophomore going into his junior year, though. He probably would have done the same thing when he went to Western Carolina. I mean, he was a sophomore, you know what I'm saying? So now he's a man of the world. He's been through all these visits, and he can separate the wheat and the chaff. But for us to make some conjecture right now about where Arch Manning's going is about like us telling me what's the Dow Jones going to be tomorrow afternoon. I don't know. I mean, nobody knows, but
that's a great point. It drives me crazy. We go, here's his favorite, or here's his top three, or stuff like that. Until the kid tells you who his top three are, you don't know. And the idea that the team's out of it because of based on what they've done in the past or what they did last year or 2 years ago, or I don't think teams are out of it based on that. And I don't think teams are in it based on that.
Yeah, and these guys that do these national things, they got a job to do every day to put out stuff to get readers, and a lot of times maybe they have really good stuff. But in the case of this, and I'm just telling you, that kid out in California is pretty good too now. Watch the tape on him. The one that I can't say his last name, but he's really good. And Texas just got a quarterback coming in from out there, and they also got a big transfer that they got a lot of NIL money in. So all the reasons that they say Texas is in there, I don't know. So and he's going to be a good player, no question about it. He'll be good wherever he goes. But
Coach, you just called that kid out in California Nico. That's all I'm doing. I'm not trying that last name either. And I got a tough last name, but I'm going with Nico.
Nico is the real deal. So
Yeah.
we'll have good
Emma
quarterback.
Lavea?
I think as a whole, all you can really say is that Georgia as a program has positioned itself to be right there competing with, the best of the best for the best of the best. And that wasn't the case even a handful of years ago. Getting a national championship helps. Doing all the other things that Georgia's done helps. But, you have to sustain that. Clemson is not what it was 2 years ago. There's a little bit more shaky ground there right now, and Georgia can seize on that. Georgia's in there with Alabama and probably Ohio State right now as the most desirable places to be just in terms of stability.
Yeah, and I would say this, and I'm going to point my finger here to make this point. There was a reason Matthew Stafford came here. There was a reason Jacob Eason came here. There was a reason Justin Fields came here. They see what Georgia has to offer. It doesn't make any difference what happened to them, where they left, when they did, how they played as freshmen, all that. They came here because of what Georgia had to offer, and that's the way that the Mannings are going to look at it. Where can my son have the best chance to be able to continue the legacy of being a pro quarterback? That's going to be it. I promise you.
I get to point my finger too, because I want to point out you had Brock Vandegrift, who's a 5-star. There's quarterback controversies. He came. Gunnar Stockton saw everything that happened this year. High 4-star, close to a 5-star guy, depending on where you look at the rankings. That's a kid who could have gone somewhere else. He came to Georgia. You're in it for these guys, and I think Coach nailed it. The opportunity to play at Georgia is a blue blood university. It's a blue blood program. They're always going to be attractive. Oklahoma's always going to be attractive. Ohio State's going to be attractive. Clemson's going to be attractive. You're in the fight. That's all I can tell you. Right, got another one, Dave?
That's it. That's a wrap for the questions from the event.
Let me go back to one. Make sure. I think we had another question. Let me ask Bill and Statham. Now, this is my buddy Bill I used to work with. This is a different Bill, because my buddy Bill and Statham I used to work with is a huge Alabama fan, and I have not rubbed it in his face yet that Georgia beat them. I need to do that because we've gone back and forth over the years. He's a good guy. Bill and Statham says, is there any confetti left? No, Bill, there is not. So I apologize for that. We're out.
Good job on that. But
I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors for the show. Thanks everybody for sponsoring us, because it means a lot. Athens Ford, huge. Dead Soxy, gigantic. Friends at Academy Brewing Company, Classic City Eats, and of course Europe High. We can't have the show without them. We will have a show next Tuesday at noon. Guys, anything you want to touch on before we leave?
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
All right.